about to begin. Please be seated. PolyU Council and COP members, Professor Edwin Chen, Departmental Advisory Committee member of the School of Accounting and Finance, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to the FB Dawn and CEO Luncheon organized by the PolyU Business School. I'm Yuki Lam, a Year 4 student in the School of Accounting and Finance, and I will be your MC of today. Our speaker today is Professor Colin ZENG, Associate Professor in the School of Accounting and Finance. He will share with us his insights into gene, education, and accounting career choice. Professor Zeng's presentation will be followed by a Q&A section chaired by Professor Jimmy Zin, Associate Dean, External Relations and Development of PolyU Business School. Before the lunch starts, may we invite Professor Edwin Chen, our faculty dean, to say a few words. Professor Chen, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and guests, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this luncheon hosted by PolyU Business School. The FB Dawn Cross CEO Luncheon forms an important part of our ongoing efforts to foster meaningful dialogue between academia and the business community. As a leading business school, we believe that the exchange of ideas between researchers and practitioners is essential to addressing complex challenges, advancing knowledge, and generating insights that create value for both industry and society. We are delighted to have you with us today. In recent years, business scholarship has increasingly drawn on insights from genetics to deepen our understanding of how individuals navigate educational pathways and professional careers. For the accounting profession in particular, questions about talent development, occupational choice, and long-term career progression have assumed growing importance. As we consider how future accountants enter and develop their careers within the profession, it's essential to better understand the interplay between professional predispositions and the environments in which people learn and grow. Today's talk invites us to consider several thought-provoking questions. How might genetic predispositions shape educational attainment and earlier career choices? In what ways do early life environments moderate these effects? And what implications might these insights hold for the accounting profession as it seeks to attract, develop, and retain talent? These are complex questions that require careful, evidence-based interpretation. They also remind us that understanding professional success requires perspectives that extend beyond traditional disciplinary boundaries. Today's speaker brings deep expertise to these issues. Professor Colin ZENG is an associate professor of accounting in our School of Accounting and Finance. Before joining PolyU, he served as assistant professor at the University of Bristol and associate professor at the University of Manchester. His research spans accounting, economics, finance, and operations management, with particular interests in the influence of political and regulatory factors on financial reporting, accounting standards, and labor-related issues. In his presentation, Professor ZENG will share insights from the latest research examining the relationship between genetic predispositions, educational environments, and career choice in accounting. Over the course of the luncheon, I warmly encourage you to engage actively in the discussion and contribute to what promises to be a thoughtful and stimulating exchange of ideas. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoy the luncheon and the discussion to follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chung. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy your lunch. and gentlemen, let's now warmly welcome Professor Colin ZENG to the stage. Professor ZENG, please.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming to here, and it's my great pleasure to be with you today. And also thank the organizers for inviting me and for your time to attend this event. So today, I'm going to share with you one of my recent research on how the interplay between gene and educational environments can shape one's accounting career choice. So this is in a very preliminary stage. Any of your comments and suggestions will be very much appreciated. To begin with, I would like to briefly introduce the team of this research. So actually, this paper is co-authored with Professor Chunfang Cao from Sangyaseng University in Guangzhou, and Shiyang Gong from Beijing Normal University, and Professor Chen Li from Beijing Foreign Language University. So my name is Colin ZENG. I'm the Associate Professor of Accounting Finance, School of Accounting Finance of PolyU. Now, we believe actually this topic is timely and important. As you know, actually accounting profession is facing a pipeline problem. On the one hand, the number of accounting graduates have been falling during the past decade, according to the figure on the left-hand side. However, on the right-hand side, actually the demand for professional accountants keep robust. So actually there is a gap, right? There is a gap. According to the latest Accounting Talent Index 2025, which is a global survey for accounting firms, 40% of the accounting firms are now very significantly or severely impacted by hiring issues. And 94% of the survey's participants say that they expect their ability to grow will be directly affected by the lack of available talents. So this brings actually a very important question, that is, what factors have prevented individuals from becoming an accountant, right? So this is the objective of our study. Now, in the US, actually the accounting talent deficit can be caused by the accounting schooling education. So this is under hot debate. According to the news media, the US currently requires 150 credit hours of college education to become the CPA. Actually, 1 credit hour is equivalent to 15 classroom hours. Okay, and this is compared to 120 hours typically needed for a bachelor degree. So actually the extra 30 hours, which is equivalent to 450 hours education, makes becoming a CPA time-consuming and very financial costly. So this could be a deterring factor for accounting profession. On top of these schooling reasons, some other studies documented evidence about a variety of factors can affect individuals' willingness to become the CPA. So for example, the high education, the high school financial education, or the instructor influence, or the introductory courses, actually these factors can affect one's willingness to pursue the accounting profession. And also some individual factors can also play a role. For example, your personality, your traits. So some papers find that actually the accountants are less extrovert and they are less open-minded. They are less risk-taking, right? And also they find that actually the accountants tend to be more rule-following, and they tend to be actually more compliant to rules and regulations, right? And these are personal attributes which can affect one's career choice. And also the social image can play a role. So for example, in society, people always perceive that accounting profession is boring, it's less creative. This can also prevent the students from choosing accounting as a major, right? So actually, there are two limitations in this literature. The first limitation is that majority of the measures for individual predisposition are based on surveys. Actually, this kind of proxy can be endogenous. So that means this proxy can vary across your stage. So for example, if you are in the early stage, you tend to be more pessimistic. But if you move forward to a later stage, you could be more positive. Okay, so that means this kind of measures can be very endogenous. Okay, and the second problem in the previous literature is that they treat environment and individual characteristics separately. They rarely consider the joint effect of these two factors. Okay, so in order to address this limitation, in our study, we aim to find a credible proxy which is predetermined, more stable, and more biologically granted measure for individual predisposition. The answer is gene. Okay, so actually gene is a very powerful new toolbox. Okay, in spite of the fact that actually the gene has been well established in natural science that it can play a role to affect one's behavior or personality, relevant study in social science is quite limited. So gene study is often considered as a missing piece in our social science. Okay. Now, in our research, we tend to answer three questions. The first question is whether or not the genetic predisposition can predict one's accounting entry. And the second question is, if the answer is yes, then how the gene can interplay with external environment to affect one's accounting career choice. And the last question is whether or not the genetic predisposition can affect one's career success. Okay, so actually our research questions are very straightforward. Now, in order to quantify the genetic impact, I would like to briefly talk about the basic ideas of genes. Actually, as you can see from this figure, majority of the individual's cognitive factors or health-related factors can be affected by gene. Actually, the red bar represents the genetic influences alone, and the green bar represent the joint impact of genetics and external environments. And the brown bar actually represent the environmental effects alone, right? So basically we find that most of the personal attributes or factors can be significantly affected by genes, either genes alone or the joint effect of gene and environment. So that means actually the impact of gene is quite significant, but somehow understudied, right? Now, in order to understand the quantification process, we need to introduce two key concepts. The first concept is genotype. So what is genotype? Genotype is kind of a set of genetic instructions you carry in your DNA, which can be inherited from your parents, okay? And the other concept is phenotype. So your phenotype is what we can observe or measure. For example, your hair color, your eye color, your blood type, and so on and so forth. Okay, so what's the relationship between these two factors? If you consider genotype as a recipe, then phenotype would be the dish that comes out. So that means there is a positive relationship between these factors. However, the phenotype cannot be determined by genotype alone, right? The external environments can play a significant role. Consider there are two plants with identical DNA. They may grow at different height. If they are exposed to different level of sunshine or water, they can grow differently, right? So actually, the joint effect is far more interesting than the impact of genes alone. Okay. Now, in order to understand how much do genes contribute to a trait, in the early research, they use a twin study. So the basic idea of twin study is to use the twin as a pairs. So they compare two different types of twins. The first type is identical twins who share 100% DNA. And the other group is fraternal twins who share about 50% of the gene, right? So given the fact that majority of the twins are growing in the same family, right? They are subject to the same environment. If we find that the identical twins are more similar to each other on the particular trait on the fraternal twins, then researchers can conclude that genes does matter for this trait. So this is a basic idea of the twin studies. However, a critical limitation of this stream of study is that they can only answer, how much do genes as a whole to affect one's trait. They cannot identify which specific genetic variants plays a role. So this is a kind of black box for gene study. As a result, here comes the molecular studies, which can accurately identify which specific type of genetic variation can really affect your personal traits. Okay, so they associate individuals' molecular genetic variation with phenotypes. So here, there is a very important, factor that is SNP. So humans share majority of the DNAs. What makes you and me different is some variations, genetic variations, at certain points in your genome. So this location is called single nucleotide and polymorphism, so SNP. So this makes you and me different. And, for some, actually at each point, each location of your genome, different people may have a different genetic letter. So for example, if you have letter A, I have letter G, right? We may have different genetic letter. And some letters could be more common than others. For example, if at this particular position, most of people have letter A, whereas you have letter G, then the people with letter A are called major allele, and people with letter G is called minor allele. So if you carry more minor alleles, actually you are more special, you are more different from others. So actually that means at each SNP, each location, we can quantify the number of minor allele for each person. Right, so think about the first person, the number is 0 because it's AA, right? For the second person, the number is 1 because AG, the G is a minor allele. And the third one is 2. Okay, so that means actually the third one could be more special, could be more different from the first one and the second one. And once we get this information, the next step is to scan the entire genome. And then we can associate all SNP with phenotype that we are interested in. So for example, if we are interested in the educational attainment as a phenotype, then we can run a regression to estimate the impact of each individual SNP on this phenotype. And based on the regression, we can obtain the coefficients for each SNP. And there are two important criteria to get credible estimation. The first criteria is that the phenotype should be reliably measured, right? Because we are running a regression. So if this measure carries noise, then the estimation could be quite noisy. So the first important criteria is that the phenotype should be credibly measured. And the second criteria is that your sample size used for the estimation should be large enough. which can give you strong statistical power. Okay, so as a result of these two criteria, in the previous research, they usually focus on educational attainment. Why? Because educational attainment can be easily measured. Right, it's measured by the number of years of education. So it's quite objective, quite easily measured. And the second reason is that because of the measurement issue, majority of the participants have this data. So this can increase the sample size used for estimation. So this can increase the statistical power. Okay, so that's why the educational attainment is the most mature and established GWAS measure in social science. And in our study, we follow this literature and focus on educational attainment as well. And then we calculate the polygenic score, which is actually a summary of genetic tendencies towards a trait, a personal trait. Okay? And then we can run the regression. Okay, now in the previous literature, including the top economic journals like American Economic Review and the top management journals like Management Science, they find that educational attainment, PGS, can positively predict one's career success and economic success. Okay, so that means actually this proxy has been well established in top journals already. And now let's move on to our research hypothesis. Because we are trying to test 3 different research questions, then we develop 3 different hypotheses. The first hypothesis is about the entry into business and accounting profession. Please note that the educational attainment, PGS, is not merely about your educational degree. Instead, it captures a broader concept. It can capture your learning skills, your kind of a cognitive tendency, and so on and so forth. It's a quite broad concept, okay? And these skills and tendency are quite important for business and accounting profession. Because for accounting profession, we require a high cognitive ability and quantitative reasoning skills. And we also require structured, rule-based judgment and precision. And also we require some strong socio-economic engagement and communications. I mean, communication skills are also very important for accountants, right? And all of these are associated with your PGS. And according to the person job fit theory, people are more likely to choose a profession that can fit their abilities and characteristics more. Okay, so as a result, we predict the individuals with a higher level of educational attainment, PGS, are more likely to choose business and accounting as their profession. And the second point is about the interplay between genes and the environments. Actually, there are different views about this point. On the one hand, some researchers argue that, these 2 factors could be, complementary, right? Could be complementary. So that means, when the people with a higher EAGPS enter into the market, then if they grow in the advantaged environment, their ability to benefit from resources could be greater. This will lead to amplified genetic differences. In other words, the environment will amplify the gene difference, right? So this is a kind of complementary effect. And the other effect is that even though you have a lower EAPGS, if you are growing in the advantaged environment, then the environment can compensate or offset the lower genetic propensity, which will weaken the genetic differences. Beforehand, we didn't know what kind of effect dominates, right? So we have to use data to speak, right? So this is a second, hypothesis. And the third hypothesis is about the career success within accounting. And we argue that the individuals with greater ability and stronger skill accumulation are more likely to achieve a better career success over time. Okay, so this is quite straightforward. Now, let's move on to our research design. Our data is from the UK Biobank. So actually, this database provides a large-scale population-based gene data. So of course, we get permission from the database because, as you know, the gene data is quite sensitive, right? So in the first place, we need to get permission from the database, and then we can use it for our research. And then we combine this database with a bunch of other databases, which provides the economic statistics, education-related statistics, right? And please note that we restrict our sample to white participants in the UK. Because actually, if we focus on white and black, actually the racial issues could be problematic, right? So we only focus on white participants to alleviate the potential concern of racial discrimination, right? So this is our sample composition. And this ends up with 260,000 observations in our sample. And we calculate the education attainment PGS following the procedure I have introduced before. So I've just skipped this slide. And according to the standard occupation classification, we classify the individuals into business occupation, and within the business occupation, we classify the individuals as professional accountant and the non-professional accountant. Okay, because we argue that the professional accountant requires a higher level of EA PGS, right? And then we also control for a number of factors to alleviate the confounding effect. So this is our summary statistics. We find that in our participants, nearly 60% of the individuals are business professionals. And among the business professionals, only 1% are accounting profession. We compare this figure with the overall consensus data in the UK. Actually, it's quite comparable. And the finance profession is quite similar. It's 1%. It's 1%. And this is our major regression, the baseline result. So for hypothesis 1. Actually, if you look at columns 1 and 2, you will find that the individuals with a higher level of EA PGS are more likely to choose business profession, which is the good news for us, right? So that means actually for business professionals, they do require a higher level of educational attainment PGS. And we separate finance and accounting profession, from the business profession. And we find that actually the individuals with a higher level of EA PGS are more likely to choose finance profession compared to other professions in the business domain. Okay, and if we separately test the professional accountants and the non-professional accountants, we find that the professional accountants have a higher EA PGS compared to non-professional accountants. This is consistent with our prediction. So this is our baseline result. And then we consider the moderating role of environmental factors. We test 3 sets of environmental factors. The first set is education environment. Due to data availability, we can only test the 4 proxies: the per pupil expenditure, the pupil-teacher ratio advantage, and so on and so forth. So we measure the external education environment based on these 4 proxies. Okay, and then we separately test the moderating role of education for individuals' primary school and secondary school years. And we find that the effect is concentrated for the former. So what does this mean? This means that the early stage education matters more. Right. So that means if you receive the higher education, a better education in your early stage, then this can better moderate the role of genes. So this is also consistent with the existing economic and education literature, right? And later on, we test the impact of economic environment. And we find that actually, among all the economic factors, if the individual are growing in the more advanced, more developed areas, then the impact of gene would be relatively limited, right? So in other words, the economic environment can weaken the impact of gene on your career choice. And next, we consider the accounting culture environment. What does this mean? So if the individual were growing in the environment with a number of accounting firms nearby, they are more likely to get information from the accounting firms. For example, they can have more interaction, daily interaction with accountants, so they can receive more education from accounting firms. They can even get sponsorship or scholarship from the accounting firms. So this can make accounting profession more attractive. Okay, and actually we average the number of active accounting firms within 1 kilometer, 5 kilometers, and 10 kilometers, and we find that the accounting firm culture information impact is more pronounced when you are living closer to the accounting firms. So this makes sense, right? So when you are living closer to the accounting firms, you are more likely to be exposed to the accounting culture. So this is what we find. And finally, we test the impact of genes on your career success. We measure career success using two broad proxies. One is objective career success based on your housing tenure, your household vehicles, and your household income, and so on and so forth. And also we have data about your subjective career success measured by your cognitive, your satisfaction, your happiness, and so on and so forth. And we get some result showing that your genetic difference, your EAPGS, can positively predict your career success. So overall, we find that the EAPGS can predict the entry into business, and within business, the accounting and the finance professions can be impacted by your genes. And we also find that advantaged early environments, including the primary school resources and economic environments and accounting firm density, can moderate the role of genes. And finally, we find that among the accountants, the EAPGS relates to some career outcomes, including your career success, right? Now, our paper can contribute to the literature by providing novel evidence. Especially for accounting research, we provide evidence that the professional entry can partially reflect the genetic predisposition. And also our paper has policy implications because actually we tell the policymakers, right, in order to mitigate the impact of gene, you should create the more fair and better education and economic environment because it can moderate the role of gene. Okay, so in a word, our paper tried to deliver a message that your gene are not your destiny. Actually, the external environment does matter. So this is all of my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Zeng, for your valuable insight. Now it's time for question and discussion. May we invite Professor Jimmy Zin to chair the Q&A section. Professor Jin, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, please take a seat. Last time I joined this event, I was a speaker. And this time, our dean invited me again. And later I figured out it's never have any free lunch. I have to be the moderator and raise some questions for the lunch. Yeah, thank you very much for your very wonderful presentation. Talk about genes. We know that gene will not result in the destiny, but many environmental factors may matter. Here, first is about some implications. How does the corporate HR leaders translate these findings into the hiring strategies without resorting to genetic determinism?
Okay. So thank you for your question, Jimmy. So actually, in our paper, we show evidence that the EAPGS can play a role to predict one's career choice. But this doesn't mean that the company HR leaders should use this kind of gene-based, hiring strategy, right? Because of three reasons. The first reason is that we are doing empirical research. What we are showing is just an on average effect. So we cannot simply apply this on average evidence to individual applicants' application, right? So this is the first reason. The second reason is that what I keep highlighting in the research is that gene does matter. But what is more important is the external environment. Right, so that means many factors instead of gene alone can predict one's career choice. We cannot only focus on gene. And also there are some ethical issues, right? So what I would suggest is that the HR leaders should use evidence-based hiring approach. So especially the fact they should assess the factors that are highly related to your EA, PGS. So as I mentioned before, the EAPGS does not only capture your educational degree, but also capture your learning skills, your cognitive tendency. So you should design a kind of assessment procedure which can assess these factors, which can be highly related to your EAPGS. So this is a proper approach instead of using the gene as a single criteria.
Thank you, Colin. That's wonderful. And yeah, we know that. Yeah, I know our attendees here are many from professional accounting professions or other business industries. Do you have any questions for our speaker? I think we must be very curious about the findings. Yeah, anyone has any questions? Yeah, please.
Thank you, Professor. I'm Stacey from the Institute of Chartered Accountant of England and Wales. It's very good to know that you did your research on the UK database. My question for you is, how similar or how different do you think if you were able to do that research here in Hong Kong?
I think the largest difficulty is about the data availability. The gene data is highly sensitive, right? So actually, I think our research, our findings can be applicable beyond the UK. Actually, we just provide evidence based on the UK data, but our finding can speak to any other countries. Okay, but the problem is that if we try to use China, the data from mainland China to conduct this research, but the hurdle is about the sensitivity of the data. So I'm not sure whether this data is also available in Hong Kong. Yeah.
Thanks for the question. Any others from the floors? Maybe I have some follow-up questions since I maybe ask this question on behalf of Savos, who is the chair of the taxation associations. So in which way can early education initiatives and the industry outreach can help attract high talent potentials into the accounting professions, regardless of the student's background?
Okay, so actually, as I mentioned in our paper, actually the accounting firms can proactively engage with the schools to increase their exposure, right? So actually one problem for students to be reluctant to become accountants is the social image, as I mentioned in the slides. So basically, the people have a stereotype that the accounting profession is quite boring. It's just a bookkeeping, right? So if the accounting firms can educate these students through mentoring or some workshops to teach these students, oh, our accounting profession is not only about bookkeeping. We are also involving the strategy, business strategy, and all some other critical decision making. So this can improve the attractiveness of our students, right? And also, I think the accounting firms can also provide some internship or mentoring programs for our students, and can give some career talks to our students to encourage our students to choose accounting as a profession. And also they can establish some scholarship, for example, especially for some disadvantaged students, if you can offer a scholarship for the students, and these students may become the accountants in the future, right? This is part of ESG, right? Part of ESG. So this can establish a very good social image, can improve the impression of our accounting profession for the young people.
Thank you, Colin. Actually, Colin solved my questions because as an educator, we really care about how the university, how the programs can help our students to be more successful in the industry and professions. In addition, like to make an advertisement, Colin is also the program director of the MSc in ESG and sustainability. If you have interest in these areas, you can contact Colin after the session. Okay, now I have the. Yeah.
That's why I keep, encouraging you to engage in ESG activities, yeah, as an ESG program director.
Okay, I have one more question. Yeah, looking ahead, how can the business leaders and academic institutions collaborate to ensure the accounting professions retains an attractive and a resilient career path for future generations? We know that we have lots of debate nowadays, whether accounting profession still is a very bright future or maybe the future are slightly dark. Can you share your insights?
Yes, actually, I think our profession is changing given the rapid development of AI and the information technology. So in the first place, I think as educators, we need to update our curricula by incorporating some new elements to our accounting education. So for example, how AI can be applied for accounting job and accounting research, right? So this is the first order task we should carry out. And also for accounting firms, you should, I think we should proactively engage accounting firms to give our students some new lectures or workshops to teach them how the accounting profession is developing, right? So actually in our program, ESG program, some of the current guests, our speakers, like Jasmine, actually I think we invited Jasmine to give a talk to our ESG students. So this can give the students some fresh idea of how our profession is going on, right? So I think the mutual effort between the university and profession are equally important. Yeah.
Thank you, Colin. Yeah. Maybe last call. Any? Yeah, please.
Thank you, Professor ZENG, for the great presentation and studies. The question I was about to ask was somehow mentioned by Professor Jim, but I can tweak it a little bit. Okay. The question I was going to ask was that, with the increased use and development of AI, how do you think your study or result would be affected? If that's already covered, maybe I would give another follow-up question. Have you applied AI in your research in this particular exercise? Yeah.
That's a very interesting question. So basically, actually this is a very kind of a trendy issue for accounting research and the profession, right? So the impact of AI on our profession. So, actually the EAPGS can capture your learning skills. So that means this learning skill is particularly important in the AI area because in the AI area, the AI can help you collect the data, can simplify your, some very actually dirty work. We call it dirty work, like data collection or some paperwork preparation. However, the creative tasks cannot be replaced by AI at this moment, right? So basically, this requires the accountants to have a higher level of creativity. So this is also related to AI, okay? And also the EAPGS can be associated with your communication skills. In our accounting research, we emphasize that both hard information and the soft information are equally important. So what is hard information? Hard information is the information presented in the financial statements. Right, this information is very important. However, the soft information, which can be obtained from the talk or coffee, a chat. So actually this kind of soft information is also very important. And the soft information can be obtained through a sound communication skills. And the communication skills will be determined by your EAPGS. So actually that means if the individuals have a higher EAPGS, then they should have a higher ability to analyze the hard information as well as communicate with companies in order to get better soft information. So that's why I think EAPGS is still important in the AI period.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question. Any other questions? Yeah, please.
Thanks for the presentation. Sorry, Professor Zeng, thanks for the presentation. Highly interesting. As you point out, the GPS has a very big impact on the development of a person's progress or involvement in accountancy. But at the same time, gene also affect many other traits of human being, like endurance, empathy, team spirit, etc. Are you doing any research on the tracks that other than GPS, which might have an impact on the development of a person in the profession?
Thanks for your question. Yeah, actually, this research is currently still very limited. And as I mentioned before, we focus on the educational attainment just because of the reliability of this measurement. Because this measure is most mature, most reliable among other PGS. But actually the literature is growing. Some other studies are focusing on different dimensions of PGS. For example, some disease-related PGS can also predict accounting profession. As far as I know, there is a working paper focusing on the kind of disease, heart disease, how this will impact your career choice. Right, so actually it's a quite emerging literature, but the major reason to focus on EA is just because of the reliability of the data. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. The time is up, so we will close our dialogue here. If you have any questions, any interesting discussions, we can discuss with Colin after dinner. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Zeng and Professor Jean. Please stay. Please stay. And may we also invite Professor Chen to come on stage and join us for a group photo. Ladies and gentlemen, our luncheon today has come to an end. Once again, thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you at our future events. Thank you.